The markets are bouncing back today off the back of some good jobs data. We'll see if it gets revised. But before we jump into that, we're also going to be discussing ApeCoin today, one of my personal favorites. We'll look at GameStop, everything going on over there with the meme stock darling. Hit that like button for me. Subscribe to our channel if you have not yet. That's really important. Nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice. We are definitely not financial advisors. We're a few guys who love following the markets. We place our own bets, let the chips fall where they may. But do your own research before making any buys or sells. Kev, really quiet week from a data standpoint. We did see this morning the latest jobless claims data came out. The expectation was 236,000 new jobless claims. The number came in at 261,000. We'll see if there's a revision next week. This was up from the previous week of 233,000. So the markets responded positively to that, thinking that, we're definitely going to see a pause now at the meeting next week. We still have inflation data to determine, if there's going to be any movement there. But that's the latest on the job front. And other than that, not a whole lot of data.
Yeah, it's a pretty quiet week, especially going out into week. All good?
All good.
All right. Going into the weekly close tomorrow, it's not much. This is probably the biggest data that we have for the rest of the week, right? And now we're just looking at a lot of how the markets are reacting. I guess it's pretty good. The fact that the data came in, better than expected. It obviously shows that maybe the Fed might pause, but at the same time, it also shows that.
Sorry, it's a skip.
Oh, my bad.
Skip.
A skip to my fucking loo. Yeah. But exactly.
Go.
So, but at the same time, it's like it's also a sign that unemployment's probably going up from here, right? So we have to be cautious and we have to look at it both ways. I don't necessarily.
I guess I don't even know anymore. After last Friday's report, where the unemployment rate went up, but the new jobs almost like doubled the expectation, I don't even know what to think at this point. It's all a fugazi, as my Italian brethren would say. Like, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's a shadow game. You got Gary Gensler out here doing all sorts of shady stuff. You got the politicians, being some of the best traders in the world. Who would have thunk it? But man, it's a weird time for the markets for sure.
Yeah, it makes it. I mean, the unemployment data and all this stuff just is so confusing just to wrap your head around. But the markets are just going to obviously react on anything. I mean, pretty much any news is good news these days, unless the SEC is pretty much cracking down on Binance. That was the only time we saw any red in the markets, and it wasn't even necessarily. Coinbase obviously helped bring the NASDAQ down a little bit yesterday, but yeah, they bounced back today. We're seeing some green across the board, and I don't know, man. The market is completely irrational, and I don't expect it to change anytime soon.
No, absolutely not. The VIX is down to 13.5.
Exactly.
Jesus Christ. The DXY is at 103.3. Okay. We also had yesterday the latest from in the GameStop saga, the ongoing GameStop saga. They were supposed to release earnings. Nope, decided not to do that. That's never a good sign. They fired their CEO, Matt Furlong. That's the fifth CEO in 5 years.
Yep.
Not a great sign for the future of GameStop. Who would have thought that a brick and mortar shop that is turned into mainly just a meme is not doing great right now? I, for one, can't believe it. They have went ahead and promoted Chewy founder and investor Ryan Cohen to executive chairman, whatever the hell that means. What's up, Ace? Good to see you. So GameStop, it closed yesterday at about 26 a share. Let's see, it closed at 26.17. It opened today all the way down at 2010, currently at 21.71. So a little bit of a rebound. No idea what's going on there. No clue if that's a place that you want to be invested at the moment. I think as more and more the gaming industry is getting more interesting by the day. We saw one thing that went overlooked in the Apple discussion the other day from their conference or their whole presentation was the big emphasis they're putting on gaming and how much gaming is going to be involved in Apple's future. And I don't think GameStop is going to have a huge involvement there. As people get away from physically owning games, you're not going to need – this isn't the old days when you would go trade in all of your N64 cartridges and get absolutely, you're a kid, you were stupid, you didn't know that you were selling them for pennies on the dollar, and they were turning around. Like, I mean, these aren't those days anymore. So I really don't see what their business model is going to be moving forward, and why they should have even the valuation they still do have. I don't know if it's just name recognition or what. They still have a market cap of 6.6 billion. That's pretty wild. So I think there's more room down. There's more room down for GameStop for sure.
I think a lot of people it's honestly kind of funny how obviously the stock shot up during COVID, right? This was when everyone started putting all that money in the short squeeze. It seems like it's going to end pretty soon with this recession. So it shot up. I think a lot of people are still invested and are hoping that it's going to run again, or they're just invested to the point where it's like, I can't sell now at a loss. You know what I mean? I think that's where a lot of retail investors are probably going to be in there. But I don't see. Maybe my bullish case for GameStop is that everyone goes broke and they want to play video games, and the only thing they can afford are like $199 PS3 games that came out back in 2007. Other than that, I don't necessarily think that they're going to be having some good numbers, especially in earnings. I mean, the fact they canceled this call means that it's probably some pretty bad numbers, and they expected that they just like, you know what, it's so bad, we're just not going to tell you. We're just going to change CEOs, and it's going to be the end of the day. That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, it's not a great look, that's for sure. Okay, do we have anything else we want to jump into before the ApeCoin discussion?
Now, let's dive right into ApeCoin. Again, it's been a really quiet week. We'll look at some of the technicals of DXY afterwards, but Ape, I think you had a pretty good explanation why we should be maybe bullish in the short term for Ape.
Yeah, so for the sake of transparency, I did go ahead and pick up some Ape this morning. I think I grabbed like 1,100 ApeCoin this morning, just because I think there are, I pay attention to this stuff. If you don't know, ApeCoin is the Yuga Labs token, Bored Ape Yacht Club, all that stuff. So there's some upcoming catalysts for this token, and I want to look at those as well as comparable catalysts in the past and the price action that had, because I think I'm bullish on it on the token long term. I don't really know in like kind of the medium term, like the 3 months to 18 months time frame, or 6 months to 18 months, where it's going to go. But I do think in the next few months it's going to see some appreciation. So a few things. ApeCoin staking, which has been going on for almost 6 months now, is going to enter its third quarter, which means rewards are going to go down. So there's going to be less sell pressure on the token on a daily basis, right? Because you get, I have ApeCoin staked. I'm getting rewards on a regular basis. For me, I'm just compounding them right now. I haven't sold any of my staking rewards. I'm just letting that grow. But there will be less sell pressure there. So that's one positive in its favor. There's also going to be the next Yuga Labs game launching sometime in June. And if we look back this will be the second Yuga Labs game that incorporates ApeCoin. So let's go ahead and look back. If you want to pull up the chart for Ape real quick, we can look kind of historically. If you want to pull it up on the daily, because I have some dates we can look at to kind of show us when things happened in the past and when we might see something similar in the future.
Which exchange would you like to look at? If that matters anymore, Coinbase, Binance.
Give me Coinbase. Give me Coinbase.
I would do Coinbase. And then we'll pull up the daily. All right, there we are.
All right, there we are. So let's go back and let's zoom it in a bit so we can see it day by day, beginning back in January of this year.
January, gotcha. So that would put us right around here. So let's zoom out. There we go. That's January.
Okay, so the first Yuga Labs game went live on January 19th. So let's go ahead and look at January 19th.
Right there. It was a reversal.
Right down there. Okay. Yeah. So it bounced up off of there, and the game was live. It ended on February 8th. So let's look at it peaked. I know the price peaked before the end of that game for sure. So I want to see where it peaked on that versus where that big red candle. Yeah, that's when it ended.
Yeah.
Right. So there. What does that move up the day before? Because everyone knew in advance that you were going to need Let me actually hold on 1 second. I want to get even more granular here.
Yeah.
Because there was information that came out before the launch, and I want to see where it moved up when we got the actual announcement on it. So let's look at January 10th. Go to January 10th for me.
Yeah, January 10th is right here. So it's a green candle.
Okay. Yeah, so that was right when we really started to get some of the information about the game. So let's go ahead and measure that difference from January 10th to kind of the peak ApeCoin price.
Gotcha. So that'd be from, let's do the lowest from that day to the highest. It's about a 43% move up. It was about $1.96.
So, and it was about 13 days, 44% move to the upside.
Yep.
So that's not bad. Now, I also, and if you want to do, let me pull it up on my end, but I looked yesterday, and in that same time frame, I believe ETH moved up 6%. So, crypto was doing pretty good at that point. But once again, ApeCoin was definitely outperforming it from there. So let me go back to that date. Let me look here on the 10th. Yeah, so crypto had a move up then. And look at it on my side. Yeah, so over that time frame, it was about 6-7% for ETH. So it outperformed there. So that's one thing, is we have a reference point of when Yuga starts this game, turns the sync on, there was demand previously. And I think we're going to see that demand again. We got a question from Ace. Does holding other side of quotas give you any type of bonus for ApeCoin staking? It does not. You can stake Ape directly. You can if you don't own an Ape, a mutant, you can stake directly to the ApeCoin staking pool. You can do Paraspace. I'm a little concerned with them with some of the recent issues they've had. They had some problems that doesn't make me super comfortable. You can also stake directly to the contract, and there's some really smart. I can DM you a few people who put out guides on how to do that. If you live outside the country, outside the US, you can use apestake.io. You definitely shouldn't use a VPN on apestake.io. Okay, so don't do that.
Got something in your eye there, bud.
But I know. I don't know what it is. So yeah, those are your options. But the staking rewards just in the Ape pool alone are pretty good. And I would say that, if you're in it for the long haul, set it and maybe claim your rewards every so often and just let them compound. The nice thing about Paraspace is it does offer auto compounding, which is a nice feature. You don't have to spend gas money to claim it and then spend gas to stake it some more. So keep that in mind. But that's what I would be, I'm staking. I'm happy to be doing so. And I'm just going to keep earning those sweet, sweet rewards. We also know that sometime this summer, there's going to be another game called Legends of the Mara that is going to be in their in their bigger ecosystem of Other Side. And what makes me even more bullish about that, this first game that they have coming out in June, it's going to be, you have to own one of their heavy metals, which is an asset that has approximately 11,000 owners at the moment. So a decent number of people for the NFT market at this point. Let me see, actually 10,000, almost exactly 10,000. Whereas with this other game that is going to be ApeCoin driven, there is going to be a lot of other NFT holders who can be involved. It's not just going to be Other Side. So if they make it where microtransactions are involved in that game and there's a high demand for it and a lot more people, and we continue to see that lower supply of ApeCoin coming onto the market and less sell pressure and actually some decent buy pressure, I think that this has a lot of opportunity to, I'm going to keep buying some more. I think this is ApeCoin. I'm not going to hold for the long term. This is really just like a swing trade for me. I got in it, my first buy was 290. If it goes down to 270, 280, I'll buy some more. And I'm looking at probably an exit of 455, 550. I'll probably DCA. I'm going to DCA in. I'm going to DCA out as well.
Nice. Yeah.
That is my plan. So if we want to look at that's my like fundamental view on it. And if we want to look at the technicals now, I'll let you take over.
Yeah, I'm just doing a few things real quick, just looking at this. But we're taking a look at ApeCoin, and obviously, we're seeing it's got a pretty good retracement. This is on the weekly, right? So we see that the volumes are down extremely low, but we're in the stochastic RSI, we're completely oversold. If we go to the daily, let's see how we're doing there. Daily looks like it's getting close to oversold. We had some volume actually come in here where it pumped up, and then we saw a massive dump, pumped up again, dump again. Right now we're at around 291, 292. So again, that's pretty. If we look at where it bottomed recently, again, this is only a little bit over a year old ApeCoin, so we don't have tons of data in terms of like history. So the lowest it went was right here at around $2.59, I believe. $2 and where's the low? 261. My bad. $2.61. So that's the low for there. So obviously a double bottom is possible. I think that there's still potential that we could drop another 30 cents. Not saying that it will, because we are pretty over sold. But again, we have to look at big picture here. I do see that we did come down. It looks like a 5-wave move to the downside. I can see it on the weekly. So we got wave 1, 2, it's the bounce. Wave 3, pretty big. Wave 4, little retracement. Wave 5, that's where we finish. This could be finished here, or it could go down a little bit more. It could be an overextension. But what I would anticipate next would be a 3-wave corrective move if the markets are reasonable and allow for corrections. So that would be something similar to like this. So you could see a bit of a pump. I'm not saying it's going to $4.74. That's just the pattern, how it would look on the macro, right? I don't anticipate it being massive. I do expect there to be some type of retracement where, it rallies up a little bit. And that's the pattern. It looks like we get a wave 1, sell off, then people buy back in. Then that's the end of the corrective move. And then that would be followed by something very similar, which would be a 5-wave move to the downside once again, which could be something like this. And then we find ultimately a new lower low. So that would be the low for the local bottom for what this market would be. That's what I anticipate. So for this price being right now 292, I don't necessarily think that's a bad place. This could honestly be the bottom. We could say this is a double bottom from this earlier wick here where we found support. I wouldn't be surprised if we find a little bit of support here. And again, it makes sense considering how much is coming out and how the utility of ApeCoin will be, necessary for this game coming out later in the year or this summer, right? Legends of Mara.
Legends of Mara is some point this summer, and the Forge is coming out in June.
Yeah, so
they put out another teaser for it yesterday. I would imagine within the next 2 weeks we have this other game ready. That is, I would imagine by the end of you get tends to push things if they say it's going to be in a certain month to the end of that month. So I wouldn't be surprised if it launched the last week of June. However, we get more information the week before that, and that is when the price movement begins.
I would like that timeline scenario to play out because that makes more sense of what I'm thinking with the macro, but also it shows people are going to be bullish on this for the time being, for the short term, which would coincide with this corrective pattern. Maybe we do have a little bit more to the downside. I think we do, just because Bitcoin dominance is so extremely high. The dollar looks like it's about to rip, in my opinion, if we put in a good corrective move. And I don't think altcoins really have a chance. We'll get into it after this one, but this would be, say we push down a little bit further, we go back to that 261, and then we just get that corrective move from there. And, we rally for, 2 months until, the correction's over, to the point where, the market's kind of ready to drop once again, the final leg of this huge macro move. And that's where we start to see this 5-wave move into obviously the end of the bear market, which would play out in an ideal world. Again, I can't say that these structures are for certain how it's going to be. This would be ideal if this is the end of the bear market and we absolutely capitulate and Bitcoin's down to like 10 to 12K. Altcoins are down, 70 to 80% of where they currently are, which would be great for everyone else. But, I don't think this is necessarily a bad play here. I think that a lot of the technicals are lining up. I'd just be curious to see how this plays out over the next few days, weeks, because I do think there is another move coming for Bitcoin and a lot of altcoins. But I do think that we are going to see this corrective move to the upside pretty soon, because we have made a pretty good move to the downside for a lot of alts. Not necessarily Bitcoin too much yet, but I think that we are pretty close to seeing some positive price action for, I don't know, maybe a month or two. Very similar to just like passive summer trading. But I think most people need to get out of the market, or larger institutions are probably going to get out of the market sooner than later. And when that does drop, maybe that's the CPI print and then the FOMC rate hike that just brings it down to the bottom where we start to see, this wave A play out. So we just start to bounce up. So hopefully that's the way it lines up. But again, we have to see. But it seems pretty nicely packaged there if it would work out that way.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, this is my thesis. This is, I'm backing it up with my own actions. And once again, this is not financial advice. Like, don't risk more than you're willing to lose if you want to tag along on this one. But I just want to be transparent. I did buy some earlier, and I will be buying some more because I have a very strong conviction in this play. Like, this to me is one that I see a lot of. There hasn't been a use case for ApeCoin since that Dookie Dash game and that ended back in February. So there's going to be a use case for ApeCoin. I do believe by the end of this year, there will be a consistent sync that is turned on where, on the gaming front, where you can use ApeCoin in a game of some variety. And, to me, once again, I just want to keep staking, let that compound, let that grow. I think long term, I don't know if it's ever going to go back to previous all-time highs. I think that might be a bit wishful thinking. But I could see ApeCoin in the long term being a $10, $8 token. And if so, I would just like to accumulate as much of it as possible. So that is my thesis there. And that's what I'm going to stick to for the time being until I see information to the contrary.
For sure. I don't think it's a bad play whatsoever. Again, not financial advice.
Yep. All right. Anything else we want to look at before we wrap for the day?
Yeah, let's look at the DXY. DXY, if we haven't actually looked at this in a few days, so I just want to bring it up. The weekly stochastic RSI, we see that we're pretty overbought on the weekly. So we're going to probably see this come down a little bit. We got rejected off this 50 moving average. Came above it, but we just didn't have enough strength to push up. But here's the thing, too, with this. I think this is also, wave one of a larger move to the upside. So right now, we're just retracing, in my opinion. I think if we look in the daily, we retrace pretty nicely. We're going to be into the oversold, undervalued, position. Again, we got above the 200 EMA. We're getting rejected from it a little bit. I think we're going to find some support on this 50 moving average. So we might go down to 103.071. That wouldn't be ideal just because that would bring us completely undervalued. And then maybe we could find some support there. Then we could start our move to the upside, which would be on the weekly. If we look at this, just bring us out of the overbought for a period, get to a point where we're at 103. It's right around here. So we bounce off that at this level. Here, I'll just put a little line here so we can remember this at a later date. We bounce off this line here, and then we make our next move to the upside, which I do think the target for this is going to be 105.651. So I think that, maybe after this week, we see the dollar, finally cool off to that 103 level. And then going into next week, obviously, there's a lot of stuff coming up with CPI and the FOMC. We could see the dollar absolutely rip, right? That's very possible. And I think that would be a pretty smart play in terms of everything in the macro, Bitcoin, all these exchanges, everything with crypto and TradFi just feeling like it's either extremely hot right now or plateauing to a point where we're kind of just trading in a range near a top, but we're not putting in any higher highs. We're not putting in anything deep lower. We're just kind of putting in a continuation or like a consolidation pattern. We'll see. I think we're hitting a lot of resistances in TradFi. And then for crypto, I think that we are extremely unstable. And that the reason why I think we're unstable is because of this. So if we look at Bitcoin dominance on the weekly, obviously we're still above this blue line. This blue line is extreme support. So, yeah, sure, we're coming down. Maybe we retest it at some point. That could be potentially, FOMC. We're getting the 25 rate hike after we priced in a no rate hike, skip perhaps. And then, we bounce off that and we just find support on this. And then we just kind of have this shitty period where Bitcoin dominance is super high for the next, I don't know, a few months, a few weeks, going into at least the end of 2023. And that would be terrible for altcoins because if Bitcoin dominance is high, obviously altcoins are going to bleed out. But if Bitcoin, is bleeding out, then altcoins are not going to rip because if people don't have faith in Bitcoin, why are they going to put faith in coins that are being classified as securities, right? So that's just my logic thinking about that. I also think that we're going to see USDT dominance absolutely take a leg up. I was looking at this yesterday. It took a pretty good leg up. Today, it's down a little bit, but at the height of it today, it's on the weekly. The height of it yesterday, today, it was at what was that height? 7.9. So almost 7.9% market cap dominance over all other coins. We look at this back on Monday, where I think we started to see some of that price come down. We hit a height of 8.02. So we went to 8% of the total crypto market cap was in Tether. Again, the fact that this is still staying pretty high, looks like we got the golden cross here, shows me that a lot of people are moving coins into stables. And if we look at the monthly, this is probably the most dangerous thing. And I think a lot of people aren't prepared for this, but we're climbing up like crazy. But look how low the monthly stochastic RSI is for USDT. That's for the dominance. There's a good chance that this thing could absolutely rip over the next few months. And that doesn't give me a lot of confidence in altcoins, or especially altcoins, but it doesn't give me a lot of confidence in Bitcoin whatsoever. What percentage could we hit? My guess is as best as anyone else's. It looks like we got some resistance here back in June of 2022. That's when the market absolutely collapsed, went down to 17K. A few months later, back in November 2022, that's FTX. I don't know. Maybe at the end of this market, we get a blow off top and we get a triple top on this, and we see 9 to 10% market cap dominance of USDT. That would be absolutely deadly for alts and Bitcoin. So again, this is where I'm keeping an eye on. This is where money's being moved into. It's secretly, quietly being moved into it. Not too many people are talking about stablecoin dominance across the board. Like, let me pull up USDC dominance real quick. Again, I don't use USDC. It's not something that I particularly use, but again, it's not terrible. If we look at the monthly, yeah, it's completely oversold. Looks like it's finished this pattern here. But let's look at the daily. Yeah, so we see there's some volatility. Man, no one uses USDC. If you look compared to USDT, the market cap, it's just again, USDC is probably more US based, but USDT is absolutely global, so that's why we're seeing a lot of money. Again, there's a lot of money outside of the US, so I'm not surprised that people are moving these into these trading pairs into USDT. But I think this is an absolute no win for alts here. I think the alts are in the shadow of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's driving the market right now, and then we know where all the funds are going. This is potentially a place where we're going to see, we could see a transfer of wealth, but I think there's a good chance that we're going to see a lot of money disappear out of the space very soon, and that's pretty scary. So with Bitcoin dominance being so high, it's at 48.10. I mean, look at that massive gap that we shot up. We're going to fill this gap at some point, but again, if we're looking at this could be wave one wave. This could be an absolute we shoot up 2 more times. We break 48.48, break it again. Bitcoin could be at, I don't know, next week. Let's say we get to 27.23 again by FOMC. Bitcoin dominance could be above that. Clearly, a lot of money's moving out of the alt, so Bitcoin dominance naturally goes up. We could potentially see an absolute rejection at this once again. We could be going down to 25K to 22K. I think that 22 to 23K is probably the scenario that most people don't want to acknowledge. But we got some massive gaps. We got a massive gap down here. I think that needs to be filled. And I think that we retest this, we get rejected. We retest the 200 EMA, we get rejected under that. We're going to be right here around 22.6, 22.7. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on. Again, the DXY looks like it's ready to rip. Dominance for Bitcoin is extremely high, and we got some really good resistance right here, and I'm not seeing the volume to support that it's coming in. So guess what, guys? I am not fucking bullish in the short term. I think going into this FOMC that we're probably going to get some really bad numbers. Whatever comes for this FOMC, I think we're going to see a red reaction from Bitcoin. I could be dead wrong. But this is just what I'm seeing from the numbers. And obviously this market is manipulated as shit, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. Binance, Coinbase, the SEC. There's just a lot of uncertainty in the space, and I don't think a lot of people are going to want to be, in too many projects if they're with their funds, knowing that this market's going to absolutely tank. Especially if it does tank and it goes really fast, people are going to be selling like crazy.
Yeah, we'll get into our FOMC predictions next week. It's going to be an interesting one. It was really pretty easy to predict what was going to happen in the meetings when we knew that a hike was coming. It was easy to see what the number was going to be and how Powell would talk in his presser. But this one's obviously different. So, with the expectation of a skip and, a potential rate hike in July, I'm not really sure. I think I know how he's going to be and the way that he's going to be talking in the presser, but I'm not super convicted in that take. So we'll discuss that more next week, probably on Tuesday when we get the inflation number as well, because that will give us our indicator of what the Fed's game plan is going to be and how Powell will speak about it. So looking forward to that. We'll wrap up the week tomorrow. Look at the weekly close, look at trading volumes, any news that comes out. No economic data tomorrow, so nothing to touch on from that standpoint. But that's going to wrap it up for today. Appreciate everybody for watching. I hope that you maybe got something out of this show. We talked about ApeCoin. We talked about some of the technicals. I think it was a good discussion overall. Ace, Randy, appreciate you guys as always being here, chopping it up. Your support is awesome. You guys are great. And yeah, if you have not yet, do us a favor. If you're watching this back, hit that button down below for the like, a subscribe, a comment is great. And if you are so willing to, that share button and putting us out on Twitter or other social media, or maybe you do one of those email chains that everyone loves to get where you blast us out that way. That'd be appreciated too. But that'll do it for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.